A room full of world leaders. Complete silence. Then India's foreign minister said 11 words that made everyone's blood run cold. What he revealed about the global order will change how you see every news headline from now on. Stay until the end, because the last thing he said is already happening in your country. Drivus, Jaishankar isn't your average diplomat. This man has a PhD in international relations. He was India's ambassador to both China and the United States. He speaks fluent Mandarin. For decades, he played the game exactly how it was supposed to be played: calm, measured, diplomatic. But in 2023, something changed. He stopped being diplomatic and started being brutally honest. And that honesty is making some of the world's most powerful nations very uncomfortable. Let me show you exactly what he said, and why the silence that followed speaks louder than any words. But before we dive in, if you're new here, hit the subscribe button and leave a comment. I subscribe. And I'll personally welcome you into the family. With that said, let's get started. Statement number 5. The colonial hypocrisy. Let's start with number 5, because this one exposed a 200-year-old lie that Europe desperately wants buried. February 2023. Munich Security Conference. Jaishankar is sitting with European leaders who are lecturing India about democracy, human rights, and moral responsibilities. Then Jaishankar leans into the microphone and says, Europe has to grow out of the mindset that Europe's problems are the world's problems, but the world's problems are not Europe's problems. The room went silent. He just said what the entire global south has been thinking for 70 years. And he brought receipts. Between 1765 and 1938, Britain alone extracted $45 trillion from India. That's from a Columbia University study published in 2018. 45 trillion. With AT. Imagine someone stealing your inheritance, then years later showing up to lecture you about how to manage money. That's what this moment felt like. The European leaders in that room had no response. Just awkward glances and uncomfortable shifting. But he didn't stop there. He went deeper. When you had a colonial policy, you constrained the industrialization of colonies because that was the idea. So in 1900 India was about 18% of the global GDP because it had a large population. In 1947, when the British left, it was down to about 2 to 3%. Think about that. In 150 years of British rule, India went from being nearly 1/5 of the world's economy to almost nothing. That's not natural decline. That's systematic extraction. And when European leaders talk about aid to developing nations, India has been receiving about $3 billion a year. Sounds generous until you realize Britain alone took 45 trillion. That's paying back 0.007% of what was stolen. But that colonial wealth didn't just disappear. It built London, Paris, Brussels. The museums, the universities, the infrastructure. All of it funded by Asian and African resources. Jaishankar wasn't being aggressive. He was being factual. And facts made Europe very uncomfortable. But what he said next made America shift in their seats. Statement number 4. The Russia-Ukraine truth bomb. Number 4 broke the Western narrative in under 60 seconds. Russia invades Ukraine. The entire Western world demands India condemn Russia and stop buying their oil. Reporters corner Jaishankar everywhere. Why is India buying Russian oil? Don't you care about Ukrainian lives? Jaishankar hits them with this. In 1 month, Europe bought more Russian oil than India bought in the entire year. The European Union purchased 44 billion euros in Russian energy in 2022. India bought 18 billion. That's from the International Energy Agency. But he went further. He explained India's position in a way that destroyed the moral posturing. I have a country with a per capita income of $2,000. These aren't people who can afford to pay high energy prices. You're asking me to take a big hit for something I didn't create. He pointed out that India buys oil from Russia at a discount, refines it, and sells it to Europe. So Europe is still consuming Russian oil, just with extra steps and through Indian middlemen. Western nations wanted India to sacrifice its economy while they kept their heating bills low and their factories running. And Jaishankar said, no. We'll do what's right for our 1.4 billion people, just like you're doing for yours. Then he asked the question that nobody wanted to answer. Why is it okay for you to continue buying Russian energy but not okay for us? The journalists stopped asking that question. But the room went silent again because he wasn't done destroying narratives. Statement number 3. The rules-based order, dismantling. This is where it gets terrifying, because he questioned the one thing the West never once challenged. September 2023. G20 Summit. Every speech mentions protecting the rules-based international order. Western leaders love that phrase because it sounds fair, organized, legitimate. Jaishankar stands up and asks 3 simple questions. Whose rules? Who made these rules? Were we in the room? In 1945, 51 countries created the United Nations. Today there are 193 member nations. But the same 5 countries that won World War II, the US, UK, France, Russia, and China, still hold veto power. You could hear people breathing in that room. That kind of silence. Here's the math. 1.4 billion Indians, 18% of humanity, have less say in the UN than 330 million Americans, who represent 4% of humanity. It's not just India. Nigeria, Indonesia, Brazil, Mexico, massive nations with 0 permanent representation. Jaishankar explained it this way. Today, we live in a world where a few nations believe they have a God-given right to shape global decisions, and everyone else should just follow. He pointed to specific examples. When the United States invaded Iraq in 2003, there were no sanctions. When Russia invaded Ukraine, the sanctions came within days. He's not defending Russia. He's asking, why are the rules applied selectively? He mentioned Libya in 2011. NATO intervened under a UN mandate to protect civilians. That mandate was for a no-fly zone. Instead, NATO bombed the country for 7 months, overthrew the government, and left Libya in chaos. No consequences for exceeding the mandate. So when you tell us to follow the rules-based order, we have to ask, which rules? The ones written in 1945 when we weren't independent? Or the ones you break when it's convenient? A young Indian diplomat named Priya told me, for the first time, someone said what we've thought for 70 years. We've been playing a game where the rules were written to ensure we'd never win. If you're watching from the West, this might feel threatening. But if you're from the global South, this might be the first time you've felt hope. Maybe fairness isn't just a dream. But Jaishankar wasn't attacking the West. What came next showed he was playing a completely different game. Statement number 2, the China Masterclass. Number 2 is pure strategic genius, and China's leaders hate that it's public knowledge. India and China share a border. In 2020, soldiers clashed in the Galwan Valley. 20 Indian soldiers were killed. It was the worst violence between them in 45 years. Everyone expected escalation, threats, nationalist rhetoric. That's what usually happens. Jaishankar did something different. He said, we will talk to China. But the relationship will never be the same until you restore peace on the border. That's not weakness. That's strategy. He didn't give China an enemy to rally against. He didn't give them a friend to exploit either. He created a third category, a strategic competitor who won't be bullied but won't be baited into war. Here's what happened next. India joined the Quad, the security alliance with the United States, Japan, and Australia. A clear signal to China. But India also kept diplomatic channels open, continued trade negotiations, never fully closed the door. Jaishankar explained India's approach. We'll cooperate where we can, compete where we must, and confront where we have to. But we decide the terms, not you. And here's the business impact. Between 2022 and 2024, Apple shifted $7 billion in manufacturing from China to India. JP Morgan predicts 25% of all iPhones will be made in India by 2025. Samsung, Google, others followed. China's nightmare isn't India becoming an enemy. It's India becoming an alternative. A place where global companies can go when they want options. Jaishankar also pushed back on China's Belt and Road Initiative without directly confronting it. He said, connectivity projects must respect sovereignty, territorial integrity, and be transparent in costs. That's diplomatic code for, we know your debt trap loans. We're not playing. Sri Lanka borrowed heavily from China for infrastructure. Couldn't repay. Handed over Hambantota port to China on a 99-year lease. That's not investment. That's colonialism with extra steps. India's response? They launched their own connectivity projects with transparent financing, partnering with Japan. No debt traps. No hidden clauses. Would you rather fight the bully or make them irrelevant? Jaishankar chose option 2. And that strategic thinking is reshaping the entire region. Statement number 1. The New World Order Declaration. The number 1 statement wasn't just bold. It was a declaration that the world as we knew it is. March 2023. Raisina Dialogue in New Delhi. Thousands watching in person, millions streaming globally. Jaishankar says these 11 words. This is not going to be a Western century. It will be everyone's century. A CNN correspondent described it. You could feel the tectonic plates shifting. Let me break down what he meant, because this isn't rhetoric. This is data. Economically, Asia will represent 50% of global GDP by 2040. That's from McKinsey Global Institute. Half of all economic activity on Earth. Demographically, Africa will have 2.5 billion people by 2050, more than China and India combined. Young, increasingly educated, ready to work. Technologically, India sent a satellite to Mars at 1/10 the cost NASA would have spent. They're landing on the moon's south pole. They're building AI systems and renewable energy at a pace the West can't match. James, a 34-year-old American policy analyst, told me, I was watching that speech live, and I felt my textbooks becoming obsolete in real time. Everything I learned about how the world works was based on assumptions that are no longer true. And here's the subtle threat in Jaishankar's statement. He's not saying, please give us a seat at your table. He's saying, we're building our own table. Is it already happening? BRICS is expanding. Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, now adding Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran. That's 40% of the global population, and they're creating alternative financial systems. India's digital payment system, UPI, processes 10 billion transactions per month. More than the United States and Europe combined. And they're exporting this technology to other countries, bypassing Western payment systems entirely. India is adding solar energy capacity faster than any nation in history. They're on track to become the third largest economy by 2027, surpassing Japan and Germany. For Western powers, this isn't conquest. It's obsolescence. The feeling that the world is moving forward and you're becoming optional. For emerging nations, it's hope. The script isn't written by the West anymore. The deeper implication. Jaishankar isn't anti-West. He's post-West. And that's more dangerous to the old order. Anti-West means fighting the system. Post-West means making it irrelevant by building parallel structures. Look at what's in motion. India pushed for the India-Middle East-Europe Economic Corridor. This railway and shipping route will connect India to Europe through the Middle East, bypassing traditional routes controlled by China and reducing shipping time by 40%. India championed the African Union joining the G20. That's 55 African nations now having a voice in global economic decisions for the first time. India is developing a digital rupee to challenge dollar dominance in regional trade. They're already conducting oil trades with Russia in rupees, not dollars. That's a crack in the petrodollar system that's existed since 1974. Your currency, your trade routes, your alliances are being redrawn right now. And most Western leaders are pretending it's still 1995, acting like American dominance is permanent. Jaishankar put it bluntly, the world is not waiting for the West to figure out it's no longer the center of everything. The warning sign. Every empire that fell ignored the same warning signs Jaishankar just listed. The British Empire in the 1920s still thought they ruled the world. By 1947, India was independent and the empire was collapsing. That's a 27-year gap. The Soviet Union in 1980 looked permanent. By 1991, it was gone. 11 years. We're in year 15 of the current shift. History suggests we're closer to the tipping point than most people realize. Whether you're in New York, Lagos, or Sao Paulo, this affects your job, your savings, your children's future. World Bank data shows 60% of global growth between 2024 and 2030 will come from Asia and Africa. LinkedIn reports a 340% increase in tech jobs in the Global South between 2019 and 2024. The opportunities are moving. If you're not paying attention, you'll miss them. The backlash. Not everyone celebrates Jaishankar's approach. Western critics call him nationalist, provocative. Foreign Policy magazine called his statements dangerous rhetoric. Indian opposition critics say he's risking relationships for applause. But here's what both sides miss. India still maintains $191 billion in trade with the United States. They haven't kicked out Western companies. They continue military cooperation, intelligence sharing, joint naval exercises. Jaishankar is walking a tightrope, assertive without being aggressive, confident without being arrogant. He's proving you can speak your truth without burning every bridge. And that's what scares the old order the most. Because if India can do it, others will follow. Brazil is already speaking more boldly. Indonesia is pushing back on Western demands. South Africa is openly questioning IMF conditions. The dominoes are starting to fall. Why this matters to you? If you're in the West, your politicians haven't told you the world moved on. Your purchasing power, your political influence is diluting. Not because you're failing. Because 4 billion people are succeeding. The economic model that gave your grandparents the American dream was built on a world where the West had no competition. That world is gone. If you're in the Global South, for the first time someone at the big table is speaking for you. But will your leaders follow through? Or will they take the money, stay quiet, and keep the old system alive? If you're young anywhere, the careers your parents advised you toward are based on a world that's disappearing. The opportunities they never imagined are opening in places they never looked. The map is being redrawn. Are you looking at the new one or still staring at the old one? Here's what happens next. More nations will speak like Jaishankar. We're already seeing it. The cracks in Western dominance are showing. Alternative institutions gain legitimacy. The BRICS Bank has already lent $33 billion. They're not replacing the World Bank yet, but they're becoming a viable alternative. When 3 more G20 nations openly echo Jaishankar's points, the system cracks. Not collapses. And through those cracks, a new order emerges. Timeline? 18 to 24 months. Your passport's power, your currency's strength, your vote's impact, all tied to this shift. Are you watching or are you preparing? So Jaishankar exposed colonial hypocrisy. He demolished Western double standards with math. He questioned who makes the rules. He outmaneuvered China without firing a shot. And he declared the Western century over. Is he a visionary speaking truth to power, or is he dangerous, accelerating conflict the world can't afford? Comment visionary if you think he's right. Comment dangerous if you think this leads to chaos.